Tempt. Romance audiobooks. A safe place to explore your dreams.
Chapter 1. Becca.
Finish reading Chapter 15 of the textbook. I would like a minimum of a 5-page essay of your response to it.
The lecture ended and the class groaned loudly. The professor chuckled.
The essay will be due at the end of next week. Be happy it's your final and not an actual test.
The clock chimed to announce that it was 4 in the afternoon, signaling the end of the day.
That's all for today. See you next week and enjoy your weekend.
As the students began to file out through the doorway, I turned to Felicity. She was packing up her shoulder bag. Hey, since it's Friday, do you want to go to one of the frat parties tonight to celebrate? One last party before the end of the school year? I wouldn't normally suggest going to one of those parties, but Felicity's 21st birthday was last Friday, and she'd not done anything to celebrate it. Her family had insisted she come home and spend the weekend with them. She'd been in a foul mood since she returned. She looked up at me from where she was digging inside of her bag. Really? But you hate the frat parties. Her eyes, which were such a deep brown they were almost black in some lights, filled with hope. I shrugged as I stood, pulling my own shoulder bag on. We're making it your redo birthday weekend. It's not about what I like. I grinned at her. Just promise we go to karaoke next time. Felicity dove on top of me, wrapping her arms around my neck. She squeezed so hard, I was pretty sure I turned blue. Even though she was petite, she was damn strong. If it had been anyone else trying to hug me, I'd have curled up in a ball. Thank you, Becca! Yes, yes! Let's go! She pulled back excitedly. We have to get ready. Let's go. She grabbed my hand as she basically ran out the classroom door. Felicity! I laughed as she dodged around other students. We still have a few hours before any of the parties start. Yes, yes, but we have to find the perfect outfits. She grinned over her shoulder at me. We're both going to be gorgeous. I rolled my eyes, but couldn't stop the smile that spread across my face. Felicity and I met at the start of freshman year when we'd become dorm mates. I thought, at first, we'd never get along. She was as perky, pink, and happy-go-lucky, most of the time, that you could get. I was the exact opposite. Total introvert, awkward, chubby, but I did like pink now after seeing it all the time when we were together. Felicity didn't seem to care about our differences. She immediately latched onto me, demanding friendship. She hadn't even cared that I was an anxious mess. At first, I thought she was weird, but as the days merged from weeks to months, she broke down my walls and we'd become best friends. She insisted we do everything together, and I had finally given up protesting after the first month. She was still weird, but so was I. Now, I couldn't imagine not having her in my life. You know, all you have to do is smile and the guys all roll over on their backs for you, right? Pish-posh, I'm not that great. Felicity snorted as we finally made it to the dormitory that we'd currently lived in for the last year. Besides, if you actually talked to a few, they'd be tripping over themselves to get to know you. Right. I gave my own snort, but I wouldn't have this conversation with her again, since we'd had this discussion multiple times already. I'm going to miss this dorm. We went up the stairs instead of waiting for the slow elevator. Our room was on the second floor at the end of the hall. I won't, Felicity chuckled. We're going to be in the sophomore dorm. It has its own cafeteria, and we'll have a private bathroom. No more communal bathroom for us. Just wait until after summer break. It can't go by fast enough. Unlike Felicity, I couldn't wait for the summer break. I was getting away from everything in the city and spending it up in my family's cabin in the mountains. Sans the family. I'd invited Felicity, but she was going off to some kind of family reunion she couldn't get out of. So, it was going to be the first time I'd gotten to go on my own, since the rest of my family was in California for the summer visiting my step-grandparents. I was looking forward to reading, working on my art portfolio, and enjoying the outside with no one around besides me. The cabin was located off main roads and several miles away from any kind of human contact. The short trip up the stairs ended. As we stepped inside our room, I glanced around. Her side of the room was decorated up the wazoo with everything under the rainbow. Random posters hung up on the walls everywhere. A few of them looked to be about to drop. My side of the room had a few decorations, but most of the available surfaces were covered in books and my art supplies. Okay, let's figure out what we're going to wear. Felicity threw open her wardrobe closet. How about we match? That cute purple dress shirt you have with the black leggings? I'll wear my hot pink dress with black leggings. I shook my head smiling, but pulled out said clothes. All right. Over the next 2 hours, we took showers, dressed, and for the last 30 minutes, Felicity had been putting makeup on both of us. If it was up to me, I'd go without it. But this night was about Felicity, not me. And there. Felicity finished putting some stain on my lips. Perfect. She stood back with her hands on her hips. I think it's my best yet. You can even hide your flashlight keychain in the dress's pockets. I looked in the mirror and blinked. She'd contoured my face to make it look slimmer. It wasn't bad. I smiled at her. Thanks. She grinned as she clapped her hands together. Let's go! She looked amazing in her pink dress and leggings that fit her hourglass figure perfectly. Her light blonde hair was curled around her face and ran down her back. She really was gorgeous. I followed her out the door as we made our way out of the dorm. It was later in the afternoon. There were still a few hours before it would get dark. We roamed the main street, where most of the sorority houses were located. Almost every building was lit up with lights that flashed. There was music pumping out of the doors. Students roamed the middle of the street, some already drunk and singing loudly. I was thinking we could stop by Axel's frat house, Felicity suggested as we walked. She was trying to be subtle. I hid my smile. That's fine. Let's go there. Felicity had a huge crush on Axel. It didn't hurt that he was drop-dead gorgeous and on the football team. I wasn't sure what position he was. I wasn't really interested in sports, so I never paid attention when Felicity talked about it. I'd never had a chance to talk to him, having only met once for about a minute. When they would go out, Felicity met him wherever they had planned to go. After another 10 minutes of walking, we stopped in front of a 2-story Victorian house. There were students all over the front yard, and loud rap music blasted through the open windows and front door. There were plastic cups littering the yard, and I wrinkled my nose in disgust. Was it that hard to throw away an empty cup? Come on, Becca! Stop spacing out! Felicity grabbed my hand as she dragged me across the sidewalk, up the stairs, and into the house. The house was even more jam-packed with people than it had looked like from the outside. You couldn't even hear yourself think without yelling in your head. Where do you think Axel is? I leaned forward to yell into her ear. I pressed into her side to try to avoid being touched by other people. It also gave me a focus, so I wouldn't have an anxiety attack. He's probably in the kitchen! She yelled over her shoulder at me as she pushed her way through the crowd of dancing and mingling students. I was right on her tail. There were a few curses from kids that Felicity basically shoved out of the way, but no one stopped her. Being hot had its perks. As soon as we went through 2 rooms, we were in the kitchen. I wouldn't have been able to step into this house without her pushing me past my comfort zone. Axel leaned against the island, his right ankle over his left. His arms were crossed as he was talking with the guy to his left. I paused for a brief second to look at him. Felicity had good tastes. He was tall, hands taller than most of the boys at this party. He was almost as muscled as he was tall. His muscles were clearly defined in his black shirt that looked like it might be a size too small with how it clung to him, giving hints to the body underneath. He had a handsome face with strong features. His hair was light chestnut and was cut short. It was just long enough to look tousled. His eyes were a shade darker than his hair. His skin tone reminded me of caramel. He looked like the bad boy jock. It was significantly quieter in here. You could talk without having to yell. Axel looked over as we entered the room, and his amber eyes lit up as a look of yearning flashed across his face.
I didn't think you were coming.
He didn't move from where he was as we walked to him. His white teeth flashed as he grinned, making them stand out against his darker skin tone. I had to admit, he was really hot, and his voice was smooth as velvet. I wouldn't miss getting to see you before you left early for break. Felicity's tone had deepened as she fluttered her eyelashes up at him. She'd let go of my hand as she stepped up to him. Axel chuckled as his arm went around Felicity's waist.
Well, we're just gonna have to make the most of tonight, aren't we?
The guy that Axel had been talking to cleared his throat, coughing into his hand. He was nearly as tall as Axel, but leaner. He wasn't as wide as Axel, but still in great shape. His hair was only a little longer than his friend's. It was a light blonde with hints of natural red tint in the strands. I was too far away from him to see what color his eyes were in the low light, but his face was beautiful, with hints of Asian heritage. I'd love to draw him. He looked like he could be one of those old samurai with a katana, ready to strike. His skin was a light tan. Axel looked over at him and laughed.
Sorry about that, Jasper.
He motioned between the two.
Jasper, this is Felicity, the girl I've been telling you about. Felicity, this is Jasper. He's my best friend.
Felicity stuck her hand out to shake Jasper's. Nice to meet you. She pressed against Axel's chest. You talk about me, hmm? I had to admit, the girl was smooth. I looked around. Maybe there was a quiet corner I could hide out until she was all partied out. I'd made sure my phone was charged all the way, so I could read the new book I'd just downloaded onto it. It would be a good distraction to keep my anxiety at bay.
It's awesome to meet you. You'll have to tell me how you got this dimwit's attention. The only thing he's ever cared about is food and working out.
Jasper had continued the conversation as I was looking for my escape. His voice reminded me of melting chocolate. Felicity laughed before looking back. She narrowed her eyes at me because she knew exactly what I was doing. My shoulders slumped. Let me introduce you to my best friend. She walked over, threw her arm over my shoulder, and shuffled us forward. This is Becca. She's in the arts program, one of the best artists I've ever seen, and probably the kindest I've ever met. I looked at her. Aw, that was really sweet of her. I love you too. We laughed at each other, forgetting about the two guys for a second. Axel's chuckle joined ours, and I ignored how his voice caused a lightness in my chest that tingled. That hadn't been weird at all.
Yeah, apparently they're like that all the time, or so I've heard.
He looked over at Jasper with a shrug as he grinned.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Becca.
Jasper had stepped forward, and he took my hand in his much larger one.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
Our eyes met, and my breath left me. His eyes reminded me of an emerald necklace my mother wore all the time. They were a deep green with flecks of brown. His lips were curved in a smile as we shook hands. Nice. Star Wars fan? Django, right? My mouth felt like it had cotton balls in it, but the look of shock on his face was priceless. I was a nerd. It's nice to meet you too. Are you a football player like Axel? Our hands separated as he put both of his in his front pockets.
You are the first girl to get that reference.
He looked at Axel.
Where have you been hiding her?
He looked back at me.
To answer your question, hell no. This idiot takes enough whacks to the head for both of us. I'm in the engineering program.
Smart, nice, nerdy, and gorgeous? This guy was a total package. Technically, both of them were. I noticed as girls went in and out of the kitchen, most of them wouldn't take their eyes off of these two. It's a good thing Felicity was too busy staring at Axel to care. Hey, Felicity interrupted. We're going to go dance. Jasper, don't let this one go hide in a corner and read. She shook her finger at me as Axel, with his arms around her waist again, pulled her toward the living room where it was the loudest. I flushed as she left before glancing up at Jasper with an awkward laugh. Sorry about her. I'll let you get back to partying. I turned to go find that corner when Jasper grabbed my hand. I stiffened.
Hey, you don't have to go.
He tugged on my hand before letting it go.
I'm not much of a partier. Would you care to keep me company and talk? Promise. No pervy moves.
He chuckled low. I wasn't surprised about the promise for no pervy moves, but company would be a nice change at one of these things. Sure, no pervy moves on either side. I winked at him. His smile almost split his face. I might not have a lot of experience with men, but I knew how to flirt when I felt like it. Didn't mean I wasn't awkward.
A sense of humor. I thought those were rare, like tanzanite amongst your kind.
Jasper waved his hand, having me follow him through the back door in the kitchen. Like the tanzanite, it's the most revered amongst gemstones, I replied straight-laced. His shoulders shook in silent laughter as I followed him. We dodged our way around more students, couples gyrating on each other in the middle of the walkway, and a fight that had broken out. Jasper made sure I was on his other side as we passed the fight, so that if something happened, he'd be the one hit and not me. That was surprisingly chivalrous of him. He didn't even know that I was already so anxious about being separated from Felicity, I'd started to see black around my eyes. But that single act of kindness helped even my breathing. He led us to the corner of the yard, where there was a stone garden bench under a small, open-sided gazebo. There was a small flower garden around most of it. I didn't expect to see this in a boys' frat house. I spoke without thinking as I gazed around the gazebo. It had small lights hung around the inner area.
Honestly, if it weren't for our landlady, it would probably be dead grass.
He sat on the stone bench.
But this will be the last place most of the guys will come, unless their bedroom is locked and they need a place to have sex.
I scrunched my nose at him. Ew. Do you have any disinfecting wipes for that bench? The smile hadn't left his face since we left the kitchen, the amusement clear with his next words.
You're safe. No one's had sex out here for a few weeks, and the sprinklers have cleaned it up. Come sit.
I sat on the other end, making sure my leg didn't touch his. I had big thighs, and some people got annoyed or antsy if they're touched. You know you didn't have to hang out with me, right? I was going to go read in a corner.
Nah, you seem to be the only one who wasn't interested in drinking or finding a hookup. Not to mention, you got my reference. Most girls just look confused.
I leaned back slightly on the bench, my hands behind me, gripping the back. Most girls weren't raised on Star Wars, Star Trek, and anything nerdy sci-fi you can think of. I hated Cartoon Network, except when they had Sailor Moon or Inuyasha playing.
No shit.
Jasper copied my stance on the bench, but his legs stretched out in front of him. The guy was tall. From there, we talked about shows that we both liked. Turned out, a lot of my favorites were his too. Jasper told me about the classes he was taking. It went over my head, but he seemed passionate about it, so it was fun to listen to him. He listened as I told him about my art, which I told him about with a lot more enthusiasm than I usually did with strangers. We were talking about favorite types of restaurants when the sun finally disappeared. I hadn't even been paying attention to anything other than talking to Jasper. My vision had been getting progressively worse through the evening as the sun's light disappeared, but now, with it gone, I couldn't see. Nyctalopia was a bitch that I had suffered with since I was a baby. I can't see in the dark, which is why I always carried a few flashlights with me. I even had a mini battery-powered lantern in my purse for when I do go out in public. If the streets were brightly lit, I was usually okay, as long as I had someone with me. If there were some lights, I could see them like they were really far away and looked fuzzy. Unlike most people who get diagnosed with nyctalopia, my doctors had never been able to fully make it go away. I was nearsighted, but even eye surgery didn't help my night vision. I hadn't even noticed how dark it had become until my vision just went black. I'd been too engrossed with our conversation.
Becca, you okay?
Jasper's tone was concerned since I'd suddenly just stopped talking. Yeah, but do you mind if I turn on a flashlight? I'd already had my hand in my pocket that held the flashlight.
Oh.
His tone was confused now.
Are you afraid of the dark?
I barked out a self-deprecating laugh. Something like that. I could hear him shifting where he was. I just pulled out the flashlight when there was a click and the lights in the gazebo turned on. I needed to blink to focus. It wasn't the greatest light, but as I looked around, Jasper was in front of me, frowning.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that helps. I nodded at him as I placed the flashlight next to me, but left it off. As long as I could see a little bit, I could ignore the shadows further out into the yard.
You're not really afraid of the dark.
Jasper sat next to me again.
It isn't that dark yet.
I sighed. Here came the explanation part. Most people find out and think I'm even weirder since I also suffered from severe anxiety, which suited me fine. Not being able to see at nighttime sucked. It meant I couldn't drive at night, couldn't go to the movies. I'd never gone to a dance because they were usually dark inside wherever it was held. I ran a hand through my hair. I should have put it in a braid. I can't see at night. I have nyctalopia. I've had it since I was little. If it's dark, I'm blind. Even with these lights, you're pretty fuzzy to me. And no, you can't catch it. Jasper scooted closer to me. My flashlight was the only thing separating his thigh from mine.
Is that better?
My nose scrunched again. You're taking this really well. He shrugged.
It's not a big deal to me. Anyways, you were telling me about that sushi place that actually has a revolving bar?
Just like that, we were back to talking. It was nice to meet someone, besides Felicity, who learned about my partial blindness and just moved forward not caring. It didn't change who I was. We'd moved on to where we'd grown up when I heard my name being called. Felicity popped in the gazebo. Axel was right behind her. Becca, I'm sorry. I had no idea it had gotten so late. She rushed forward, her face becoming clearer as she grabbed my hands in hers. Her lips looked swollen, with her hair looking disheveled. Someone had had fun. It's okay, Fel. We were just talking. She eyed Jasper before looking back at me. You ready to head back? She pulled out the bright pink flashlight she'd bought shortly after she'd learned about my partial blindness. Got mine ready. She puffed her cheeks out proudly as I smiled. You're done? I glanced between her and Axel. He had his hands in his pockets, but I couldn't really see his expression. Mm-hmm. The party is still going, but now everyone is super drunk. I thought we could go get some dinner. Axel says he's buying.
Well, if Axel is buying, I'm in.
Jasper interjected and stood. Felicity, keeping her hand in mine, turned on her flashlight as I did the same for mine and started to lead the way. I trusted Felicity as we walked through the backyard, around the house that music still seemed to be pulsing louder from, and around to the street. Where my flashlight hit, I could see a lot more students along the street, most of them drunk. Axel was next to Felicity, judging by the large shadowed figure next to her. Jasper had decided to walk next to me, and he turned on his cell phone flashlight. It made my heart warm. I hoped he'd want to talk again. He seemed like a great guy to know.
Jasper. When Axel had pulled me from studying in my room to join the loud party downstairs, I was annoyed as hell. I'd been studying for my final next week in my differential engineering class that was kicking my ass this semester. I'd told him I'd stay for an hour with him. The damn bear was taking full advantage of college life while he could. I couldn't blame him, but it didn't mean that I had to like it. My fox certainly didn't like the noise. My hour had almost been up when Axel's crush walked in, making a beeline straight to him. She was pretty hot, smart too, according to him. I wasn't thrilled to meet her, but it was inevitable if Axel liked her. I had run my eyes over her body, trying to see what he saw in her. Then, she'd stepped back to introduce the friend who'd been behind her that I hadn't noticed at first. Her friend was taller than she was, coming up to my chin and probably Axel's shoulder. When Felicity had introduced her, I'd been polite and offered my standard greeting, getting ready to say goodbye when she'd shot back, knowing my Star Wars reference. I decided that talking to the friend might be worth the lost study time. Her friend, Becca, had longer hair that was loose around her shoulders. It was a medium ginger color, straight, and reminded me of the sunset at home. My sister would have killed her for that hair. She had a round face that fit her body that she hid underneath clothes. Her hips were pear-shaped. She was a little bigger than my last lay. Her eyes were a bright cobalt color that I had to blink for a second to make sure I was seeing correctly. My fox perked up in interest. Her body posture showed she was uncomfortable, and it looked like she was getting ready to bolt. Axel pushed his shoulder against mine when the two girls were talking. "Help me out here." I'd sighed but nodded. Felicity had recommended just a few seconds later that I keep Becca company. We'd gone outside to the gazebo where it was less crowded since it was loud, and Becca looked like she might appreciate a location that would be less congested with people. The next few hours had flown by, and before I'd known it, it was night. I'd enjoyed myself a lot more than I thought I would. So did my fox. When the girl had gone quiet and looked dazed, I thought she was having some kind of episode. Her eyes had gone glassy as she blinked rapidly. When she'd explained she was basically blind at night, I'd taken a deep breath. I'd thought she was hurt, and here she was, blind as a bat. Now, we'd walked to a small pizza joint. Felicity had led Becca through the street, as we'd all used our flashlights for her, even though it wasn't that dark to Axel and me. We sat at a table near the back of the restaurant. Axel ended up next to Felicity, and I sat next to Becca. I was taking a drink of the water the waiter had left, when Becca leaned into my side and whispered softly,
They kind of make you sick with the puppy eyes, don't they?
I sputtered on a laugh as the water I'd been drinking got stuck. I coughed, clearing my throat, thumping my chest as I laughed through it. Axel lifted an eyebrow at me as I just shook my head at him. You did that on purpose. I leaned over, whispering to her, knowing Axel had heard what she'd said and my response. When she tilted her head to look me in the eyes, she had a smirk on her round face that was oddly adorable. Her cobalt eyes sparked with her own amusement.
I don't know what you're talking about.
She looked back down at her menu, scrunching her nose in thought. I'd noticed she'd done that a few times when we'd been talking, when she was thinking about something. My fox wanted to boop her nose when she did that, but I refused, pissing him off.
Oh, how about we share a white pizza with pepperoni and pineapple?
Felicity looked up at Becca.
That sounds yummy to me. Also, garlic bread.
Becca's stomach rumbled just then, but it wasn't loud enough in the restaurant a human wouldn't have heard it. But Axel and I did. Axel laughed into his hand, masking it as a cough as I just grinned. Talk about timing. Pepperoni sounds great, but pineapple? How dare you? Axel had turned more in his seat to face Felicity and Becca. Becca had set the menu down, looking like she was about to reply just as the waitress came to the table. She ran her eyes along Axel and me before licking her upper lip. She totally ignored the two girls.
What can I get you?
Her voice was lowered in her version of sultry. I'd leaned back in my chair, draping my arm over the back of Becca's, getting comfortable, so I could enjoy what would happen based on how both girls had stiffened.
You could grow some manners.
Felicity clipped at the waitress.
You do notice that their girlfriends are literally right here? And you know we can see you eyeing our men, right?
Her tiny lie slipped out, but I snickered as Axel's ears turned red.
Now, Felicity, it's not her fault that the guys are so mouth-wateringly yummy.
Becca spoke up as she leaned back in her seat, her hair brushing along my arm.
We would like to order, though.
She gave our order to the waitress, whose face had progressively gotten angrier through the conversation.
I'll get that in right away.
She turned on quickly to rush off.
I really hope she doesn't spit on our pizzas.
Becca muttered softly. I snorted this time, loud enough that she heard me. Becca, I think that tonight is the start to a beautiful friendship. She threw her head back and laughed, her hair covering my arm now. My fox started to purr, and I had to hold my breath. He was far too interested in this girl. She wasn't even our normal type. She's going to be a friend, I reminded him silently. He ignored me and continued to purr, the little fucker. The time passed quickly. Our food came out, spit-free, we hoped, and we all ate hungrily. I even got Axel to try a bite of the pineapple pepperoni pizza. He had grudgingly admitted it wasn't horrible. The best thing about never being picky meant more food for me. When it was time to pay, Felicity grabbed the check before either I or Axel could. Felicity pulled out several bills, putting them into the fold. She winked at Axel.
It was my idea. I get to pay.
She stood, stretching. Her dress rode up higher on her thighs, and my eyes tracked it. But instead of enjoying it like I thought I would, I didn't feel anything.
I saw a claw machine. Let's play one game before we leave.
Her grin was infectious with Axel and Becca.
You go ahead.
Becca laughed softly at her friend.
I'm going to use the restroom. I'll catch up.
Axel stood before wrapping an arm around Felicity's waist. You coming? He looked back at me. I looked down at Becca, with her nose scrunched. Nah, I'll be there in a minute. Axel shrugged as Felicity led him off to the front of the restaurant, and I turned to Becca. What are you thinking about so hard? Becca reached for the check. She counted the bills before sighing softly. She pulled out another $5 bill with a few ones. She put it with the other bills and slid it to the middle of the table.
Felicity sometimes has a temper. She looks and sounds fine, but that waitress really pissed her off.
She stood, brushing something off her legs.
Even if the waitress was hitting on you guys, she's still working hard. She deserves a tip.
That's damn mature. Surprise laced my tone. She just shrugged.
My mom worked a second job waitressing for years. I get it.
She looked up at me as I stood next to her.
Plus, you guys are eye candy. Can't blame her for having that reaction.
My grin was crooked as I laughed. Damn, I'm starting to see you don't have a filter. She pulled out her flashlight and returned my grin.
Not really.
I liked this girl.
You can listen to the rest of the book in the Tempt Romance audiobooks app, available on the App Store and Google Play. The link to the book is in the description. Discover even more bestsellers and exclusive stories updated weekly, only in Tempt Romance audiobooks.